Trust should be a serious question and a serious issue for the financial services industry, especially as the Secretary of the Treasury. Well, that's an important... No, this is my time. I haven't asked any more questions. I haven't asked you any more questions.
It's the gentleman from Massachusetts.
I'm trying to get to my next question.
Could you speak a little louder? I can't hear you.
Yeah, okay. I might.
Yeah, there's a white guy from Massachusetts. I'm not Xing you. He says I'm not Xing you because as Mass, it's not even New York, and he's doing that. These Democrats, the English language is not their strong suit. Bomb, bomb, bomb. Those rascally Democrats, that was Stephen Lynch. It's an old family name. They earned it the old-fashioned way. Stephen Lynch, Democrat, Massachusetts, who says X when he means to say ask. You know how the Democrats are. He's no Maxine Waters, though. Maxine Waters, Democrat, California, multi-million-dollar houses, the usual Democrat story, corrupt, extremely unintelligent, unserious. Maxine Waters was in on the hearing with the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, yesterday as well. And it's... I don't know, she's trying to say something about the voice of reason. I don't think she knows what those words mean, but Maxine Waters with the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent yesterday on Capitol Hill, and it sounded a little bit like this because, you know, Maxine Waters.
I ask you, Secretary Bessent.
What?
Will you be the voice of reason in the administration?
Sure.
And urge Trump to stop waging a war on American consumers and on housing or for affordability and putting the economy at risk? Yes or no? You don't have to explain.
Representative Waters,
will you be the voice? Will you be the voice? Will you be the voice? Will you be the voice of reason? Will you be the voice of reason?
A study
yes
from
no?
Wharton University
Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time.
Was the mass unfettered immigration.
Mr. Chair, will you let him know that when I ask him
time does belong to the gentlewoman from California.
Oh, yeah, that's. I'm sorry. What was the question and what was the desired answer? There was no desired answer. It was just to hear the sound of her own demented, mentally ill, illiterate voice over and over again. What was she trying to? Will you be the voice of reason? I think was the question. He attempted to answer the question. She was not interested because she's anti-intellectual. She's very severely brain damaged, suffering from, I think, from birth with mental dwarfism, intellectual dwarfism. But there she is, and Maxine Waters. She's reclaiming her time, reclaiming my time, reclaiming my time, reclaiming. Answer the question. Answer the question. Answer the question. That's going to be a permanent Maxine Waters soundbite, I think, with the middle part of that where he attempts to answer the question, and then of course the goal is for him to stop talking. Because she just wants to hear the sound of her own fatuous, odoriferous ignorance. Maxine Waters wasn't quite done.
10 and 20 million immigrants
took
up the housing stock of working Americans, and can you maintain some level of dignity?
Gentleman's time has expired.
No, my time has not expired.
Your time has expired. And the gentleman
took up my time. I think you should recognize that, Mr. Chair.
The gentlewoman's time has expired. The gentlewoman's time has expired.
Well, if you want
Chair, parliamentary
the chair recognizes the vice chairman of the committee, Mr.
If you want to
parliamentary inquiry.
Go right ahead, but I would not expect you to do that.
Sure. Yeah. Shut up. Will you shut up? Will you shut up? Will you shut up? This is the end of the United States of America as a first world country because the Democrat Party. And I love the Democrat Party with their no kings thing. They had this no kings thing across the country. And you know what the Democrats do when they decide something harebrained like this? First thing they do is they raise money, as if you need to raise money to have a no kings protest across the country, which is dementia on fire on LSD. It's on LSD while on fire. The self-immolating LSD junkie with the just amazing stuff. But the Tony Segura and Anna Paulina Luna have gathered up the fundraising money from the No Kings protests across the country. Now, just get a whiff of this. They raised more than $294 million, the Democrats did, for the No Kings protest. Did you notice anything that might have cost money? They had the signs made by the Communist Party and so on, and the what is it, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, and then what was the other one, Michael? The other one with the Socialist Alternative. Yeah, the communists, they're communists. Communists always call themselves socialists. It sells better than communists because they murdered 100 million people and everything. But here is the left, Tony Segura and Anna Paulina Luna, gathering up the numbers. For the No Kings protest, they raised $294,487,641. That's how much money they raised for the No Kings protests across the country, and they claimed they had 1 million of them in 1,000 states or something like that, but they're mental. And here's the thing. Warren Buffett gave them $16 million. The Rockefeller Foundation gave them $26 million. George Soros and his various entities, of course, gave them $72 million. That's why these people live in mansions on Embassy Row and claim that they're protesters driving around in Teslas and the sticker on the back of the Tesla saying, I bought it before, blah, 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 because they're mental illness. The Tides Foundation, that's a left-wing radical group spread out. I believe the Obamas are involved in the Tides Foundation, $45 million. The Arabella, an organization called Arabella, $79 million raised for these idiotic protests, and they bank most of the money. The Ford Foundation, $51 million. The Ford Foundation. Henry Ford, I'm sure, would be very proud that they're giving, and what my best girl and I were covering this morning. My best girl pulled this one out on me and said, have you seen this? And I said, no, actually, I haven't, sweetie. And all these organizations with their millions and millions of dollars, forking them over to whatever left-wing group knocks on their door. It's a shakedown all the time, right? But it is completely nuts. And it reminded me of that. And I said, well, and my best girl saying, why would the Ford Foundation, the Ford Corporation, the Ford Foundation give $51 million to these lefties? And I said, well, honey, these left-wing groups have spent decades taking over, seizing like a communist invading army with bayonets affixed, taking over these foundations and these organizations because there's a steady flow of other people's money. And the communists, you may remember, Vladimir Lenin said the capitalist will sell you the rope with which to hang them. And that's what these idiots are doing. But left-wing Ivy League grads take over the Ford Foundation. They target them. The Rockefeller Foundation, George Soros, you don't have to do anything about there. He's already there. And the Tides Foundation, left-wing outfits. But they take over the Arabella and the Ford Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, and they funnel, again, Ford Foundation, $51 million to just the No Kings protest. Wouldn't that pay for every one of the protests everywhere in the country? And then the Rockefeller Foundation, $26 million. It reminded me of the Barack Hussein Obama and the Democrats of the Barack Hussein Obama and William Ayers, the terrorist William Ayers, who's a radical left-wing communist terrorist involved in murdering people during the armored car robbery. And instead of being sentenced to 10 years in prison, he was given tenure at a major American university. Obama, Annenberg, and Ayers. William Ayers, communist terrorist. Barack Obama, communist terrorist. And the Annenberg Foundation in Chicago. And they targeted the Annenberg Challenge. And honestly, the University of Illinois released documents related to the Chicago Annenberg Challenge, the nonprofit education support group that in the 1990s was co-founded by education professor William Ayers, a communist terrorist, literally, not an embellishment of any kind, and chaired by Barack Hussein Obama. Now, isn't that amazing? And it was, you see, William Ayers taught Barack Obama that you target the Annenberg Challenge because they have millions and millions of dollars, and we steal it. You see, that's what goes on there. A philanthropist, Walter Annenberg, who started the Daily Racing Form, horse racing and stuff, and then he started TV Guide, and he was a friend of Ronald Reagan. Walter Annenberg was. Ronald Reagan would spend every New Year's with Walter Annenberg at his place in Palm Springs. I would spend my New Year's in Palm Springs also because of Ronald Reagan going there when I was in my youth. And listen, as Walter Annenberg announced at a 1993 White House ceremony, the foundation would give $500 million to school districts across the nation. And that's when William Ayers said, I need to take that over and steal all of that. And then Barack Obama jumped in. And these commies, these lefties, they take over the foundations to steal the money, and they fork out all the money to left-wing radicals. See? So you got that. He said, Walter Annenberg, 1993, again, great Ronald Reagan friend, give $500 million to school districts across the nation. What was then billed as the largest single gift ever made to the American public education system. $50 million went to Chicago. After 5 years, review concluded the Annenberg gift was a misguided and wasted effort that almost completely failed to achieve any of its intended reforms. And that's because the communist terrorist, William Ayers, a tenured college professor, and Barack Obama, they zoomed in on that money so they could steal it for left-wing causes. And that's Walter Annenberg, again, a conservative, a Republican, a great American story. What a great American story. Street kid running numbers for the guys, I think, in Philadelphia, created the Daily Racing Forum for all the horse racing stuff. Very successful, created TV Guide when TV was exploding in America. Became a very, very wealthy man and a great conservative American. And then the commies, they take over, just like with the Ford Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation, and then they fork over tens of millions of dollars. Ford Foundation, $51 million just to the No Kings people. What is up with that? Then you go look at who's controlling the Ford Foundation, and it's, the William Ayers wing of the Democrat Party. Isn't that amazing? All right, Michael, let's take another phone call. Let's go to Steve, calling from Hollywood, but it's Hollywood, Maryland, not Hollywood, California. Steve, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, Chris. Good to talk with you.
Welcome, Steve. Welcome.
I'm calling because I agree with some of the other callers that this nation is very close. In fact, I think if Donald Trump had not been elected very shortly, we would be a communist nation. But I was thinking about this, and I realized that in 1776, when our forefathers devised the Constitution, the Articles of Confederation, Marxism, Leninism, communism, socialism, none of those political ideas existed. The problem is that, as you know, since the end of World War II, our nation has fought a number of wars, both overtly and covertly, against the communists throughout the world. We've lost tens of thousands of soldiers and trillions of dollars in treasury, but there's nothing in the Constitution, which all of our laws are supposed to be rooted in, that says that this nation is supposed to be a nation based on democracy, based on capitalism, based on the right to own private property. And I think it's time, before it's too late, that we ask Speaker Johnson and Majority Leader Thune to propose a 29th Amendment to the Constitution that makes it clear that this nation will never be based on communism, socialism, Marxism, whatever you want to call it. And anybody who professes those ideologies should be banned from serving in any form of a government, whether it's federal, state, local, whatever. And I think if that doesn't happen soon, we're going to be in big trouble, because there's absolutely nothing that in our Constitution or our laws that prohibit those concepts.
Well, I got to say, Steve, you're right about everything you said about fighting our wars post-World War II against the spreading virus of communism, the Korean War in the Korean Peninsula, 1950 to 53, and the Vietnam War in Vietnam, 1959 to 1975. And you're right, the nearly 100,000 Americans lost in those two wars alone, and fighting the spread of communism in Central America, Latin America, the Sandinistas and the Contras and Ronald Reagan, and the Democrats were on the side of the commies then, on the side of Daniel Ortega and the Sandinistas. They're on the side of Hanoi Jane and the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong in the Vietnam War. The Democrat Party has not been on our side for a long time. They're pro-Castro and pro-Hugo Chavez. They're pro-slavery. They are the party of slavery, and communism is slavery. And, Steve, I like your 29th Amendment to the Constitution prohibiting socialism and communism. Look, the mayor of New York, another one of these socialists, just won a state house seat in the state of New York. Look what's going on in Minnesota. The commies are here. They are the Democrat Party, and they're worse than monkeypox. Scott Bessent is on Capitol Hill again today, this time on the Senate side. And Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, the fake Indian with the cheekbones, she went after Scott Bessent. I want to share that with you coming up. Well, let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Tony calling from Silver Spring, Maryland. Anthony, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Yes. Hi, Chris. Good to be able to speak with you here. Last time I tried to call, there were some kind of technical problems, but I'm glad I got through this time.
Me too.
Anyway, I just wanted to point out something. Now, I went to public school, but I did learn one thing, and that is simple math. The total number of kings that there were before the protests was 0. The total number of kings after the protest was also 0. 0 minus 0 is 0, so they accomplished 0.
Well, that is true if you're a rational thinking human being, but you have to keep in mind that they collected hundreds of millions of dollars. See? And that's the real goal here. Right? Also, I got to say this, Tony, since you brought it up, is they are against President Trump getting a hold of Greenland because Greenland belongs to Denmark, and Denmark is a monarchy, and the king there is Frederick X, or Frederick X, if you prefer. Now, you know the Savannah Guthrie story to be hard to not know. It's on every channel about 18 hours out of every day for the last... Yeah, she disappeared on Sunday, and it's a horrible, terrible story. Today is Thursday. President Trump tweeted out, I think on Truth Social, actually. He said, I spoke with Savannah Guthrie, President Trump said. I let her know that I am directing all federal law enforcement to be at the family's and local law enforcement's complete disposal immediately. We are deploying all resources to get her mother home safely. The prayers of our nation are with her and her family. God bless and protect Nancy, that's Mom, who is vanished. President Donald J. Trump, he signed it, and it's true, and we're deploying all resources to get her mother home safely. If the president were to deploy ICE agents to Tucson, Arizona, to look for Savannah Guthrie's mother, I wonder if the Democrats would set up barricades and roadblocks, and whether they'd put masks on and come out with guns and extra magazines to fight against them. Good stuff. But Laura Powell Esquire, retweeted President Trump, and Laura Powell noted, I hope Trump's strong support for the Guthrie family doesn't provoke Democrats to come out in favor of kidnapping elderly women, because of the contrary nature of the Democrat Party and the left. It wouldn't be at all surprising if they now came out in favor of kidnapping and disappearing old women, because the Democrat Party's Trump derangement syndrome is utterly berserk. Berserk. I'm telling you, these people. Can I just say, these people. I haven't even gotten to Governor Wes Moore, who lies about absolutely everything. Pretty extraordinary stuff going on with him. But let's go to where does it begin? Number 3, you said. Number 3, soundbite number 3 on our long list of sound bites for today. And this is, you undoubtedly saw it. It's hard to miss. Savannah Guthrie sat down in her sister's home. Her sister's home. They're near Mom's home, not far from Mom's home in Arizona. And they made a video with the brother of Savannah Guthrie sitting on her left, stage right, and the sister of Savannah Guthrie sitting to her right, stage left. And the 3 siblings, the 2 sisters and 1 brother, sat there. And really, it was Savannah Guthrie reading from a sheet to a camera. And according to news reports, multiple news reports, the FBI was at the sister Annie's house, right? And they were sitting side by side. The brother is Cameron, and the sister is Annie. Savannah Guthrie is the NBC news anchor who's been living a wonderful life, and it looks like caring for Mom in Arizona. Their father died when Savannah Guthrie was, I believe, 16 years old of a heart attack, and raised with Mom and the one sister who is the shorter and less attractive sister. Savannah Guthrie looks like she's about a foot taller, and she looks like a network news anchor lady, and so on. And the sister doesn't look very happy. And the brother, Cameron, again, if you're watching the video, the brother Cameron is screen right. He's got a baseball cap on that looks like, what is it, Cracker Barrel. Looks like a Cracker Barrel hat. And he's sitting there. And they are, the brother and the sister flanking Savannah Guthrie are unemotional. The sister, Annie, does eventually offer a sentence or two, and then, but not much. And they're sitting there kind of stone-faced. They look like hostages. And I told you yesterday that my best girl night before last said the police should be looking at the sister. And there is no reason to believe that any outside entity raided the home of Savannah Guthrie's mother late at night on Saturday after midnight going into Sunday morning after the daughter Annie and her husband dropped Mom off at home after apparently taking her out to dinner. But I've got to, and I don't want to get out too far ahead, but it seems to me that the sister and the brother, that their behavior has been somewhat peculiar. It's been odd after Mom kidnapped. Normally you'd have the kids on TV all over the place, and they haven't been. Savannah Guthrie, who's a TV news anchor, has not been on TV pleading for until this video yesterday. Apparently with the FBI in Annie's house. Video was apparently made at Sister Annie's house, which, according to reports, is a $650,000 house or something. And but it's not big and sprawling like Mom's house, and the Mom's house has a swimming pool and back and so on. But Savannah Guthrie and her sister Annie and her brother Cameron making a video, and I got to say that Savannah Guthrie is very emotional. She's tearful. Her mother is missing, and I've got to say, in a situation like this, where they're not in a highly densely populated urban area, in a luxurious neighborhood, and one of the things I saw a neighbor being interviewed, and not a family member, but a neighbor being interviewed. And they said there are no street lights on the streets there in the area where the house is. And the neighbor explained, it's because the sky there is so dark and so beautiful, and everybody that lives there built their houses there. They love the dark sky at night. The dome of stars and so on. So they don't put street lights in the neighborhood because they like the darkness. And that makes it harder for any Ring doorbell camera or something to see if there's a bad guy car or anything like that going. And I would say my best girl said take a look at the other daughter, at Savannah Guthrie's sister as a possible. And then hours later, and it was my best girl who brought this up a couple of days ago, and before dinner, and then it started to get curious. And then watching the video last night, the sister Annie and the brother Cameron flanking Savannah Guthrie, sitting there stone-faced while Savannah Guthrie is leaning forward, reading, looked like she was angsty, like she was full of anxiety and on the verge of all-out tears. And the brother and the sister flanking her, sitting there stone-faced, leaning back, emotionless, expressionless. And I've got to say, if that was the first thing I had seen of any of this, I would say that their behavior was suspicious. And I'm not alone in this. Other people were watching last night, and people who are left-wing political people watching it last night. I know I had a readout of a woman, a left-wing liberal woman, watching it and saying, boy, the guy's behavior is very peculiar, isn't it? And then another family watching it last night, and they said, mother and daughter, and they were watching it and said, boy, the behavior of the sister and the brother, very peculiar, isn't it? And if you're law enforcement, when you're not in a highly populated urban area, you're out where mom was when she vanished from her own home after bedtime. And she has a pacemaker that apparently contacts your iPhone from time to time. And her pacemaker contacted the iPhone at 2 a.m. on Sunday morning, and then never contacted the iPhone at all after that. So it gives you something of a timeline. The sister, Annie, and her husband, who's a very suspicious-looking fellow, they dropped her off at 9:30 p.m. or at 9:45 p.m. at her house, and then they allegedly moved on. And they're on the short list of suspects, according to multiple reports. Here's Savannah Guthrie and her siblings flanking her, making a video pleading with the alleged kidnappers for her release.
On behalf of our family, we want to thank all of you for the prayers for our beloved mom, Nancy. We feel them, and we continue to believe that she feels them too. Our mom is a kind, faithful, loyal, fiercely loving woman of goodness and light. She's funny, and spunky, and clever. She has grandchildren that adore her and crowd around her and cover her with kisses. She loves fun and adventure. She is a devoted friend. She is full of kindness and knowledge. Talk to her and you'll see.
Kind, loyal, faithful, encouraging what may be a kidnapper or kidnappers or may not be, but desperate. Savannah Guthrie trying to save her mother's life, no matter the circumstances. Describe her mother as kind and loyal and faithful. Just talk to her and you will see. Encouraging if there are bad guys out there to try to put a human face on the 84-year-old woman that was snatched from her home, and again very emotional. And she's tearing up. She's obviously in agony. And then the sister Annie Guthrie did jump in at one point, and I got to say the anxiety that she was demonstrating, I think, was different than her sister's.
The light is missing from our lives. Nancy is our mother. We are her children. She is our beacon. She holds fast to joy in all of life's circumstances. She chooses joy day after day. Despite having already passed through great trials of pain and grief, we are always going to be merely human, just normal human people who need our mom. Mama, Mama, if you're listening, we need you to come home. We miss you.
And I gotta say, my best girl and I were watching this last night, and I don't want to be too cynical about these things, but and I said, if later on it turns out that she was in some way involved, and I got to tell you, if you're FBI, if you're law enforcement, the first place you're going to look at a house in an area like this and the circumstances we have, first place you're going to look is family. For if you're looking for someone doing harm, that there may be financial gain, or the house, or the will, or who knows what the details are of that. But the idea that this is a random act, and that the woman vanished the way she did in a trail of blood leaving the front door, and the front door cam is gone, and they can't find the video from the camera, perhaps multiple cameras in the house, surveillance cameras, and no video from any of those things, which is suspicious as hell, and who would know about the cameras in the house. And I don't want to get completely carried away, but if you're looking for the bad guys here, you look to the nearest family members that live geographically close, that is the sister and her husband and so on. And Savannah Guthrie took it back.
Our mom is our heart and our home. She is 84 years old. Her health, her heart is fragile. She lives in constant pain. She is without any medicine. She needs it to survive. She needs it not to suffer.
She's pleading, if there are, in fact, kidnappers holding her living mother, and put out this bizarro electronic communication to TMZ saying they want fake currency, that they want Bitcoin paid somehow, and then there's no more communication. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but Savannah Guthrie.
We too have heard the reports about a ransom letter in the media. As a family,
in the media,
we are doing everything that we can. We are ready to talk. However, we live in a world where voices and images are easily manipulated. We need to know, without a doubt, that she is alive and that you have her. We want to hear from you, and we are ready to listen. Please reach out to us.
And look, they're pleading, and she is, and I got to say, and I've communicated with a lot of people, and a friend of mine, Jeff, saying, I felt the same way last night watching the video, and then I thought, well, how would I act in a situation like that? And you can't know, because your mother's probably never been kidnapped and disappeared, but Savannah Guthrie.
Mommy, if you are hearing this, you are a strong woman. You are God's precious daughter, Nancy. We believe and know that even in this valley, He is with you. Everyone is looking for you, Mommy, everywhere.
A lot of references to faith, and appropriately so, and understandably so. And she was supposed to be at church on Sunday morning. That's when it's first noticed that she was missing. And then the son, Cameron, was sitting there too, and Savannah Guthrie wrapping it up.
We will not rest. Your children will not rest until we are together again. We speak to you every moment, and we pray without ceasing, and we rejoice in advance for the day that we hold you in our arms again. We love you, Mom.
Love you, Mom.
We love you, Mom. Stay strong.
We love you, Mom.
That's it. And Cameron, that was Cameron's whole thing. And Cameron was looking pretty, again, you don't know how you'd respond, because how could you know how you would respond? Almost nobody's mother has been kidnapped and disappeared from her home after your sister and her husband dropped her off at night. It's a terrible situation. They're looking for Mom, living or not. And they're looking for the explanation for the disappearance of Mom, and the blood, and the alleged forced entry, and And I got to say, my gut and my best girl on this one, too, way ahead of the curve, too. I got to say, you look close to home for answers to these questions. That's your starting point, anyway. And I think that the behavior of Savannah Guthrie's sister, Annie, and the brother, Cameron, may be clues in all of this, and I'm sure that the FBI and other law enforcement are looking at all of those possibilities. So President Trump never stops doing media, doing an interview with, where is that soundbite? President Trump, NBC News, the Super Bowl interview for NBC, the Super Bowl on NBC on Sunday, with this guy, Tom Lamas. And I thought this was a very arrogant, smug, and condescending question.
Mr. President, speaking of Minneapolis, what did you learn?
What did I learn?
I learned that maybe we can use a little bit of a softer touch, but you still have to be tough. These are criminals. We're dealing with really hard criminals. But look, I've called the people. I've called the governor. I've called the mayor, spoke to him, had great conversations with him.
J.D. Vance was doing a sit-down interview with the Daily Mail, a reporter named Philip Neato, and he wasn't very neato. And listen to this question. Don't you think you should apologize to Alex Preddy, who showed up with a gun at 2 riots and attacked federal law enforcement and Latino men? Don't you think you should apologize?
Did you plan to apologize to the family of Alex Preddy?
For what?
For, labeling him an assassin with ill intent.
Well, again, I just...
For what?
Describe to you what I said about Alex Preddy, which is that he's a guy who showed up with ill intent to an ICE protest.
No, but if it's determined that his civil rights were violated
I'm responding.
by this FBI investigation, will you apologize to that?
So if this hypothetical leads to that hypothetical leads to another hypothetical,
it's a real case
will
that's
I
open.
Do a thing? And again, like I said, we're going to let the investigation determine. We're going to let the actual law come to the surface and figure out what happened.
I love. Do you plan to apologize to Alex Preddy family for what? We had a gun, extra magazine. It's a riot. Any problem there?